Hello, Chris here. In this 22-part video series, I'm going to show you how to make an animated farm scene like this in Blender. Now that we made all these modules and arranged them in a scene like this, in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a still rendered image and an animation in Blender. Let's get started. This is what we got up to last time. Now that we made all these trees and objects in our scene, we're going to render it using the cycles render engine. We go to rendered mode and then go to camera using them.0. Since we increase the brightness of this background using the hue, saturation, value node, I'm gonna increase the fog a little. So select the cube, go to shading tab. We're going to rendered mode. As you can see, it's in the local view. Press / to come out of the local view. And I'm gonna increase the density a little, 0.006. Then I'm going to increase the emission strength to 0.003. Now it's looking good. Then go to layout mode. I'm gonna go to material preview mode as my viewport is slowing down. As you can see, I enabled this bridge. So select this. I'm gonna enable our second bridge. So go to bridges collection and turn this on in the viewport and render and turn this off in the viewport and render. If you want, you can use either of them you like. I'm gonna use this one for my final render image and animation. Then go here. As you can see, this tree is not in the tree collection, so select this. We need to select the armature and the leaves on the tree, so select this. Make sure nothing else is selected. Press EM in the keyboard, change it to trees. This will move to the trees collection, as you can see. So we got 4 trees in this collection, and make sure in the bushes collection there is only 5 bushes, and the grass collection there is only the grass there. This is because this is a particle system collection, so if there is something that is there that's not supposed to be there, it's going to repeat it when we render our final scene. We don't want that. First we will render our scene as a still image. I'll show you how to do that now. So go to output properties, this print icon. As you can see, under this format, this is the resolution of our final render, which is 1920 by 1080 and 100%. This is a HD render. If you want, you can change this 200% if you want to render as a 2K image, or 400% to make a 4K render, but the rendering time is going to increase as the resolution increases. This is a frame rate. We will come back to that when we render our animation. This is a frame start, frame end and step. We will come back to this when we render our animation too, so don't worry about that. You don't need to worry about this. Then the output, this is the output of the render which will be saved to. This is mainly for the animation when we render as an animation, or when we render the animation as single PNG images. We will come back to that later too. You don't need to worry about the color management. Then the metadata, we don't need to worry about that either. So the only thing we need to worry about while we render a still image is this resolution, XY resolution and the percentage. I'm gonna leave it as 100% as I want an HD render. Then we can go to this render properties. This render engine, we have a total of 3: EV, workbench and cycle. I'm gonna use the cycles render engine as this is a ray tracer. This will render a realistic image. Then the feature set which is supported, you don't need to change that. In this device option, you can either use CPU or GPU. GPU will be faster. You can find your GPU and enable it by going to edit, preferences, then go to system, and then there is the cycles render devices. I have a GeForce GTX 1050 Ti graphics card and an Intel 5th generation i5 core CPU. You can enable this both by ticking on here, but I'm not going to do that since I'm doing a screen recording. If I enable it using this CPU, it will damage the recording. So I am going to enable this GeForce GTX 1050 Ti graphics card. If you have an RTX graphics card, this will show it here. These are all new options in Blender, so I'm gonna change it to CUDA. In some cases the CPU is more faster than some GPUs, so you can either use CPU or GPU. So I'm gonna enable this GPU here, then make sure the autosave preferences is turned on, then close this window. Then in this sampling option under viewport, this is the maximum samples for viewport, which is 1024. If you go to rendered mode, you can see see the sampling here. As you can see, it's increasing from 1 to 1024. I'm gonna decrease it to 32 since my viewport is slowing down a lot. This is a minimum samples. You don't need to worry about that. You can enable the denoise option in the viewport if you want. All these grainy particles in here is because of the noise. If you enable the denoise option, it will remove that, but it's going to take a lot of rendering power, so I'm gonna turn it off. Then there is the render option. This is a maximum samples, which is 4096, which is the default value. You can change this according to your preferences, but I'm gonna change it to 1000 as I think that's more than enough to render this render image. If you want, you can set a time limit here. The 0 seconds time limit means it will render using all these samples, but if you set a time limit to 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 seconds according to the preference for your graphics card, you can render each sample using this time limit here. If I want to set the time limit to 2 minutes, I can type in 2 and then M. This will render within a time limit of 2 minutes, but I'm gonna leave it as 0, which is default. You can set it to a default value by right clicking and reset it to default value. Make sure the denoise option in the render is turned on, as this will remove this grainy effect in the render. We don't need to worry about the advanced. Then there is a light paths option and the maximum bounces. For example, select the plane and go to particle properties, and if I select the bushes and if I change the number of bushes to 1000, if you see there is a black color, sometimes you will see a black color between these bushes, as this is made up of alpha samples, which means there needs to be a particular number of transparency samples in order to make this transparent. So when there is a clump of bushes like this and when there is a black color between these bushes, then go to render properties and you can change this transparent option samples. Default will be 8. Then you can increase this. As you can see, if I change it to default, which is 8, there is a black color here, as you can see. So if I change this transparent samples to 20, as you can see, that black color is disappeared. So you can increase this number of samples until that black color disappears. That black color will appear because there is not enough transparent light samples for that to make it transparent. So you can increase this sample. This is not dependent on these samples, so you can change this according to your preferences to get rid of that black effect. You don't need to worry about the clumping. We don't need this. We don't need this either. Then scroll down and go to this film. If you want to render an image with a transparent background, you can enable this option, but we already have a sky in the background, so we don't need to worry about the transparent. But if you want to render an image and put something in the background, you can render it by enabling this transparent option. Then go to performance option, which is this option. Here under the memory, you can change the tile size for your render. The default will be 2048. You can find out the appropriate tile for your GPU and CPU rendering by changing it from 64 or 16 to 4096 and find your default value. Mine default value is 2048. So I'm gonna leave it like that. If you have a graphics card, the sample tile size will be larger, and for CPUs the tile size will be smaller. So if you want to render faster, you can use high number of tile size for GPUs and small number of tile size for CPUs. You can find out by rendering a scene using the samples you want again and again and determine the appropriate tile size for your render and your machine. We don't need to worry about this. Then scroll down and go to color management, which is this option. The display device will be sRGB. I'm not gonna change that. Then this look, I'm gonna change it to high contrast. The default will be medium contrast, which will look like this. I'm gonna change it to high contrast, which will look a lot more vibrant like this. The sequence will be sRGB. I'm not going to change that. View transform, if you want, you can change it to filmic, which will be good, but I'm not going to do that. The default will be standard. I'm gonna leave it as like that. Then scroll up. If you want, you can set a time limit here. Then the maximum samples, I am turning it to 1000. If you want a high quality image and you don't want to lose any data, you can change it to default, which is 4096. But I think this total sample of 1000 is enough to render the scene for now. Then we need to enable the grass and the bushes in our scene in order to render our final scene. So then select the plane, go to particle system. Before we do that, go to modifier properties and make sure no vertex group is missing and there is no problem with these modifiers. There is nothing wrong with this, nothing wrong with this. These are all good for now. We will add an empty and animate our river later. So these are all sorted. Then go to particle system. I'm gonna turn this off in the viewport as this is slowing down my viewport. Then we are going to increase the number a lot. As that number will be increasing, the viewport will slow down significantly. So select the bushes. I'm gonna change it to 600 as I think that's more than enough. Then select the grass. I'm gonna change this number to a 40,000. So I want my entire scene to be covered in grass. You can change this number according to preferences and render it and see it in your viewport. But since my computer is really slow, I'm going to render it and see how it goes. So go to camera view using number 0. Then in order to render an image, you need to go to render, then select render image. But before you do that, you need to save the file. So go to file, save. If your samples number is too high or anything, sometimes Blender will crash. So make sure you save your file before you render the scene. So go to render, render image. As you can see, this will start the rendering process. I'll be back once the render is complete. As you can see, my render is complete and it is looking like this. I think this is looking good with the fog in the background. It looks like a morning scene too. You can save this image by going to image, save as, then select the folder. I'm gonna save it into desktop, then save. You can change the name according to your preferences, then close this. Now I'm going to show you how to render our animation. So before we do that, we need to animate this windmill and our river. So go to material preview mode. As the viewport will slow down since their cycles render engine uses a lot of rendering power. As you can see, if I select this and press N in the keyboard, as you can see, there is no rotation here. Make sure that's the case. But if there is a rotation, I'll show you how to do that too. Since when I moved this object into my scene, I didn't rotate it along the Z axis. Now we need to add keyframes to this model. So in order to do that, go to here, click and drag to this up. As you can see, this is the timeline. Then go to output properties. You can change the frame rate of your animation here. I'm gonna change this to 30 frames per second. I'm gonna change the frame start to 1 and the frame end to 300 as I'm going to render a 10-second video, so it will be enough. So 30 fps and end keyframe will be 300 and start will be 1. Then you need to change the output folder. I'm going to select a folder in my desktop, then accept. First we will render the video as a FFmpeg video. Then I will show you how to render it as PNG images and then make our video from that. So change it to FFmpeg video, then go to encoding and change the container to MPEG-4, which is good quality. Make sure the video codec is H264. Output quality you can change it to medium quality or high quality. As you can see, I'm gonna save it as medium quality. As we are rendering in a high contrast, we don't need to worry about that. Encoding speed good. That's all sorted. Then you can go to render properties, change render engine to cycles as we did before. You can change the sample size according to preferences if you want. When you render an animation, it will be good if you put a time limit here. Make sure everything is sorted here. I'll show you how to make a looping animation now. This is a frame we are in right now. As you can see, 1. You can type the frame you want to go to here. Start frame 1, end frame 300. So you need to add keyframes to this windmill. So select this object. Make sure we are in the first frame. You can type in the number here. I'm going to type in 1, which is currently I'm in 1. Select this, press I in the keyboard, then select rotation. We only need to worry about the rotation here. Then we need to go to the 301th frame or end frame is 300. So I'm gonna go to 301 frame. Then select this. R to rotate, Y to rotate. As you can see, this will rotate along the Y axis. Global Y axis, since I didn't rotate it at all. Then select 360, then press enter. This will rotate 360 degrees along the global Y axis. Then press I in the keyboard, select rotation. As you can see, this will add a keyframe here and a keyframe here. So if we go to first frame and press spacebar in the keyboard, as you can see, this will start rotate our windmill like this. You can see it clearly by going to solid mode, as this will slow down a lot. Go to first frame, press spacebar to see the animation. So you can see we got lot of trees in our scene, and that got animation too. That's why frame rate is dropping, as you can see here. So you can see we got a rotation to our windmill. Stop the animation by pressing spacebar, go to first frame, select this object. We can isolate this to see the animation of this one. So select this, only control select the plane to deselect it. Press / in the number to isolate this. Then go to first frame, press spacebar to see the animation. As you can see, this is rotating like this. Since there is a lag at the beginning of this animation, go to first frame, press / again, place the mouse cursor here, then press T key in the keyboard and select linear. The default will be Bezier, so change the interpolation to linear. So if I go to first frame and press spacebar, as you can see, this will rotate linearly from 0 to 300. So go to first frame again. Now that we animated our windmill, now we need to animate our river. So in order to animate our river, we need to add an empty. So go to top view using number 7, shift plus S, cursor to world origin. This will place the 3D cursor at the world origin, as you can see. Then shift plus A, empty plane axis. As you can see, this will add an empty here. This is really small at the moment. S to scale and scale it little big so that we can see it clearly. Now we need to add a keyframe to this empty. But before we do that, we need to assign this empty as the object for the animation of the river. Select the empty, press F2 in the keyboard, rename the empty as river animation point. Now we need to move this to a new collection. Press EM in the keyboard, click new collection, change this to animation. Click OK. We go to the outliner. You can see this empty will be added to the animation. Now we can select it easily if you ever want to select it. Select the plane, then go to modifier properties, which is this wrench icon. Then expand this displace modifier for the river vertex group. Then change the coordinates to object and change the object to river animation. I can type in river, then select river animation point. Or you can use the eyedropper there. Since I already knew the name, I changed it to river animation point. Now if you go to top using number 7, then we need to turn on this displace modifier in the viewport to see it clearly. Then select the empty and press G to move. As you can see, as the empty is moving, our river is flowing with the empty, as you can see. Right click to cancel. If you go to top view and select the empty and G to move, as you can see, as the empty moves, our river is flowing with our empty like this. Right click to cancel the movement. Now we need to add a keyframe to this empty. So select the empty, go to first frame, make sure this is the first frame, then press I in the keyboard, then select location and rotation. This will add a keyframe for location and rotation of the empty. Then type in 301. Our end frame will be 300. So we're going to add a keyframe to 301 in order to make a looping animation. Go to top view, then G to move and place the empty here. We don't want to add too much movement. Then place it here. Press I in the keyboard, location and rotation. Now if we go to first frame and press space bar, we can see our empty is moving and our river is flowing a little. Since this is a slow computer, frame rate is too high, which is 2.67, as you can see here. The river is flowing a little by little. Then press space bar, go to first frame, do the same to the empty, select the empty, place the mouse cursor here, press T in the keyboard, select linear. this will set the keyframe interpolation to linear. So if we select this and isolate it using /, then press space bar, as you can see our river is flowing little by little. If you look closer, you can see it clearly. Then spacebar, again stop the animation, go to first frame, press / to come back from local view. Now we got animation in our scene. Our trees already got animation to it. If I press spacebar, you can see that clearly. Now we animated our windmill and animated our river. Now I'm going to show you how to render an animation in Blender. So bring this down a little, go to rendered mode. Go to camera view using number 0. This is looking good. Then go to particle properties. Make sure we have the suitable number since we animated our render still image and we got a better result. This is enough, I think. And the bushes, I think that's enough for that too. Then go to render properties. Change it to render engine to cycles. Then GPU compute if you have a graphics card, or you can use both GPU and CPU. Then this is the maximum samples. You can change it according to your computer limit. Then you can set a time limit here. I usually set up to 5 minutes since my PC is a little slow and I still don't want to overcook it, so I will set this time limit to 2 minutes and sometimes 5 minutes. Make sure if you have too many bushes in your scene, enable it in the viewport by going to particle properties and enable it in the viewport, and make sure you don't have any blackness there. If you have any, you can increase the transparent light bounces according to your preferences until that black color goes away. If you want to render the scene without this sky and a transparent background, you can delete the sky and enable this transparent background, but we ordered the sky image for a reason, so I'm not going to do any of that. Then you can change the tile size here according to your machine's preferences. I'm gonna leave it as default, which is good for my GPU. Then color management, we changed it to high contrast. Then go to output properties. Then this is the render resolution, which is 100%. Then this is the output folder. Make sure you have a folder to place this file formatted FFmpeg video. We are going to render it as FFmpeg video. Encoding is MPEG-4, video codec is H264, medium quality, you can change it to high quality if you want. I'm gonna leave it as medium quality. Then the frame rate is 30 frames a second, frame start 1 and frame end 300. If you want, you can test out the animation by changing it to 10% or 20% and render it easily and faster and make sure nothing is wrong with it, and then render it as full render. Since I already rendered the still image and I found no problems, I'm going to render it as 100%. Save the file, save. Make sure you save the file before you render the scene. Then go to render animation. This will render the animation and place the animation in your output folder. I'll be back once the animation is complete. This is my animation. As you can see, this is looking good. If you got any problems in your animation render, you can post it in the comment section below. And if you have any questions about it, you can ask that in the comment section below too. Go to camera using number 0. Now I'm going to show you how to render it as PNG images and then compose it into a full video. So in order to do that, go to output properties. You can select the resolution here. I'm going to leave it as default. Then you can select the frame rate as we said before. Make sure you have a folder here, since when we render it as PNG images, Blender will save each image into an output folder, so you make sure you have an output folder provided here. I provided a folder on my desktop, as you can see. Then change this file format to PNG. If you have a transparent background, you can select the RGBA, which is red, green, blue and alpha. Since we have a sky background, we only need RGB. The rest of it is all the same as before. Then go to render properties. Then change this to cycles, GPU compute. You can change the sample size here. And if you want, you can set a time limit here. Turn on the denoise in order to get rid of this grainy effect. You can change the maximum total samples and the transparent samples here. Then go to color management. I'm gonna save this as high contrast as I want my image to look like this. Since we set it all that, then select file, save. Make sure you always save your file before you render a still image, even an animation. Then go to render render animation. This will render the animation one image at a time and save that images to the selected folder before. Now we'll be back once the image render is complete. My render is complete. As you can see, I got my PNG images. I got a total of 300 of them here. Now I'm going to show you how to compose that PNG images into a video. So in order to do that, scroll and go to this video editing. If this is not here, you can select it from here by going to video editing and video editing. By selecting this, I'm going to select this video editing folder. Then you will get a screen like this. Now we need to add these image strips in here. So go to add image sequence, then go to the folder you rendered that images to. I'm gonna go to my folder, then select all using a key, then add image strip. This will add the image strip here. As you can see, go to this output properties and make sure the frame start is 1 and the end is 300. As we have a total of 300 frames, make sure this frame start is 1, end is 300, and the frame rate you can select it here, which is 30 fps. Then change this to FFmpeg video, since we are going to render it as a video from all these images. Then go to here, file format, under the output properties change the file format to FFmpeg video. Then go to the encoding and change this to MPEG 4. Then change this to H264 medium quality. Then we don't need to worry about anything else. Then make sure the resolution is correct as the one we rendered. So if you render the previous images in 2K, make sure this is 2K too. Then go to render properties and make sure the cycles render engine is selected. GPU compute is also selected. You don't need to worry about these samples since we are only compositing these images into a video. By going to output properties and make sure the folder you selected is the folder you want the animation to be saved. I'm going to select this as desktop, then accept, then render animation. As you can see, this is going to compose it all those images and make an animation like this. As you can see, this is complete. Then close this window, minimize this. As you can see, I have my animation here. I can open it. As you can see, this is looking good. Now we rendered the animation and saved it into the folder you wanted. Make sure you delete this strip by selecting this one and delete. If you don't delete this strip, every time you render your animation or your still image, this will be the one rendering as the result. So make sure you delete this after you're done. Then go to layout mode. Go to material preview mode. Now we are going to add another camera and animate that camera to make an animation where we animate the camera too. So in order to do that, we need to add a new camera. So shift plus A camera. This will add the camera here. As you can see, that camera is selected. Now we need to add this to the animation collection. So press M in the keyboard, change this to animation. If you go to the outliner, as you can see, this camera will be moved to the animation collection here. Then we need to hide the camera we used before in the render and in the viewport. So select this one. You can delete this if you want, but I'm going to leave it there. Go to camera and lighting. We moved it there. Hide it in the viewport and the render. We're going to use this camera now to render our final scene. So go here and select that camera. So you can see it's here. Select that camera like this. Now we need to make that camera the active camera. So in order to do that, select that camera, then go to view, cameras, set active object as camera. As you can see, this will set that newly added camera as the active camera of our scene. If you go to camera using number 0, as you can see, this will be the camera we will be seeing through. Come out to using number 0. Now we need to see an appropriate position to start the animation. I'm gonna start it from here. So you can see this is a good advantage point. So I'm gonna go to solid mode as this is easier. Now we need to place the camera view to this view here. So in order to do that, Control Alt and number 0. This will place the camera to the current viewport scene like this. Now we need to place this camera in an appropriate position. So Shift plus grave key, which is a key above the tab in the keyboard. So Shift plus grave key. Then use the mouse cursor to move the camera to an appropriate position. You can zoom out using S key in the keyboard, zoom in using W in the keyboard, A to go to left and D to go to right. I'm gonna adjust the camera view according to my preference like this position. Make sure you don't go out this sky image. Now it's looking good. If we go to a material preview mode, I think this is looking good. I'm gonna reduce the Z location a little. You can reduce the Z location by pressing Q in the keyboard, and you can increase the Z location by pressing E in the keyboard. To solid mode, as is easiest to see. I'm gonna place the camera to this position, then place it here. Now go here, go to first frame, press I in the keyboard, location and rotation. This will place a keyframe for the camera. Then go to 301th frame. Now move the camera to the last position you want. Then press I in the keyboard, location and rotation. Now if you go to first frame and press space bar, this is going to move the camera as you can see. Then press space bar, go to first frame, select the camera, place the mouse cursor here, press T in the keyboard, select linear. This will set the keyframe interpolation to linear. Then press space bar again. As you can see, this is moving the camera from the start. As you can see, this is a frame rate of 2, which is really low. And we need to add a keyframe at the 150, which is here. Then Shift plus grave key is to zoom out. This is a good position. Place it here. I to keyframe, location and rotation. Now we added 3 keyframes. Make sure we have everything in the scene and make sure the camera is not going overboard this sky on either side. Select the plane and go to weight to paint mode. Since we removed the grass from here, we need to add grass to this here. Then go here and go to object data properties and select the grass vertex group. As you can see, we don't have any grass here. Since this is going to be in the animation, we need to make sure grass is here too. So we need to add grass here. So since we are in the subtract, change this to add. Make sure we have grass in the camera position. Removed this grass because my computer is slow. Press space bar. Make sure there is grass or bushes in the scene inside the camera view. This is really slow. I think this is gonna cook my GPU. You can change the position according to your preferences. You don't need to do the exact same thing I'm doing. But if you want to do the exact same thing I'm doing, I'll show you the position of my camera after I'm done with the weight painting. Since we placed it here, this camera did not go outside this sky image in the background. If that's the case, make sure the camera position is adjusted, or you can scale the sky image according to your camera's position. I'm gonna leave it like this though, since mine did not go outside the camera view. Now go to first frame, go to top view using number 7. Now we need to correct this. If your viewport is slowing down, you can turn off the modifiers in the viewport. I'm not going to do that though. Or you can reduce the brush size. If you use too much brush size, it will probably slow down the viewport since there is a lot more vertices. So you can see this is looking good. Then go to object mode. I'll show you the position of my camera if you want. Then press N. This is a location and rotation of my camera at the first keyframe. If you want, you can use this values. If you followed along with me exactly as I did before, you can do that. Then 150. This is a keyframe for my rotation and location for my 115th keyframe. Then 301. This is a location and rotation for my 301th keyframe, as you can see. If you want the exact same one as mine, you can use this, and make sure you have the grass in the camera view like this before. Now press N to hide this window. Now we're going to render that animation. You can animate this video either as PNG images or FFmpeg video as I showed you before. Make sure the cycles render engine and GPU compute is selected. You can change the maximum samples according to your preferences. You can set a time limit. Make sure denoise is turned on in order to get rid of that grainy effect. You can change the transparent samples according to the number of bushes you have in your scene. Then you can change the tile size according to the preference for your machine. If you want a video about how to find the appropriate tile size, you can let me know in the comment section. Change all this according to your preferences. Then go to output properties. Make sure this is the resolution you want. Frame rate. If you're going to render it as an FFmpeg video, make sure the frame rate is appropriately selected. Frame start, end, all selected. Then make sure there is an output folder. If you're going to render it as an FFmpeg video, change this to FFmpeg video. If you're going to render it as PNG images, you can change it to PNG here, and change the container to MPEG-4 if you're going to render it as FFmpeg video. If you're going to render it as PNG, you don't need to worry about this encoding. Then change this to video codec to H264 if you're going to render it as FFmpeg video, medium quality. Then after all this is sorted, go to rendered mode. Go to camera view using number 0 to first frame. As you can see, this is like this. If you go to last frame, as you can see, this will look like this. So go to first frame, then go to render animation. This will render the animation. This is my final animation. You can either render it as PNG images and then compile it to a video as I showed you before, or you can render it as an FFmpeg video as directly. Using PNG images and then making it into a video is better if you have a power cut or something, as the FFmpeg video is going to take a lot of time if you have a slow computer. That's it for this video series. If you like this video series, please give a like to this video, and if you're new to this channel, you can subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button at the bottom. And if you want to get notified while I release new videos, you can press the bell icon below. If you have any questions regarding this video or any of the things I said in this video series, you can post it in the comment section below. And if you have any suggestions about what you want to see in my next video, you can post that in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye for now.